So we had gotten started talking about all the various people around that you know,
Hmm.
and that you're talking about the guy who's got what 8 guns and the attitude of "don't tread on me."
Hmm.
Basically, where that comes from is that in our societies, various societies do it in various ways. But the way that we would start to talk about it would be with the concept of rite of passage. Do you know what I mean by rite of passage?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
All right, within the Jewish community, it is the Bar Mitzvah. That it happens in societies for generally young men, somewhere between the age of 12 and maybe 16. That is, there are still remnants in our society in the laws that we have about what is drinking age and what is voting age and all of that. So what is it that determines when someone is no longer a child and is now an adult? And if the society has an actual marked event that shows that, then that will give that kid some comfort. But if he does not know what it is that makes him a man now, he seems to need to go out and try to prove it. This is where young men get together with all of their chest pounding and bravado and drinking and all of that, is because each one of those boys is trying to convince himself that he now is a man because he's not getting that recognition from the society. To where having
Right.
and graduation from school does not fulfill that bill because there's just always more school. And
Hmm.
so graduation from high school would have been a somewhat of a substitute for that. Another substitute, which doesn't work very well, is marriage. But generally, when a guy gets married, that kind of marks that to everybody around him, including the parents, that if he's taking the commitment that's strong enough to get married, plus the duties of being married, that kind of demarks him as being a man.
Hmm.
And so these young men who were all into big trucks and gun collections and don't tread on me is basically in an identity crisis
Hmm.
because he doesn't know yet. He hasn't been able to prove to himself yet that he is now a man. Now, if you raise this topic, he's going to completely disagree with you, is going to be in complete denial
Hmm.
when it appears that you're accusing him of being a child because he so desperately wants to be a man and he's trying to prove to himself.
Yeah. I found the only way to really communicate with him was if I could he one thing we can connect on is I think he wants to be rational. He likes the idea of being rational, having a rational mind. He thinks he's man enough to be rational, to look at things objectively, let's say. And so I can get to him through the window of rationality, and then I can use that to talk about his mind,
Mm-hmm.
in a way that makes him see things with a different perspective, let's say.
So, um, in a way, though, even though there are, let us say, quite a number of very, very loud vocal examples of that, let us say in the United States, maybe about 20% of the young men's population. The actuality is that every one of us had to go through that because there was not an identified rite of passage. One of the kinds of substitutes for that identified rite of passage, again, would be things like joining the army,
Mm-hmm.
or taking a job as a cop, a policeman, getting married, graduating from high school. These are the kinds of things, but in older societies that in some ways are more mature. For instance, in the American Indian traditions that I'm fairly familiar with, is that rite of passage has to do with the young man going out into the wilderness for a number of days on his own, which means that now he's got the skills to go forage for himself. It would be, and actually, I have seen people in Michigan who intentionally go on survival uh, retreats or whatever. That he'll take. Some of them are down to just a knife. Give me a knife at 2 weeks, and I'm on my own out there.
That's a big thing here in the West. There's TV shows around that, and people want to. I think people have that urge. They want to simplify, and they also want to test themselves. And there's nothing there.
That's as much of it. It's not just to get away from it all. It's to test oneself. Am I strong enough to live up to my own opinion of myself, which has been greatly inflated because the society didn't actually do it for us. But if you look at the old Greek societies, they had these kinds of rites of passage, especially with the Spartans, that they didn't have to go out. They had a spear, but they had to go out for like 2 weeks a month or something like that. And that the winners, the real champions, were the ones who came back with a bear skin or a lion skin or something to show that they were actually able to do something with it. So survival episodes is one of the things that can be used for a very strong, definitive rite of passage. But most of us don't have it, which means that our movement or our demarcation from being a child into being an adult is a gradual process that doesn't have any clear boundaries, because we don't have enough good enough boundary systems for that. And so one of the qualities of the child is the same as the quality of a draft animal. In other words, we put our kids into school and say, you do your ABCs, you sit down and do your homework, you clean your room. We already just started going through this last time that we talked. And that is one of the things that by giving orders and telling children what to do kind of defines that as I'm the child or I'm the animal, because I'm not in charge here, that the authorities are in charge. And I want to stop being a child. I want to be an authority too. Now, the question is, do they want to be an authority over their own mind, or do they want to be an authority over others?
Yeah.
And that oftentimes people who want to be the authority over others are the most immature people, because they don't go through that period of can they be the authority for themselves. In fact, if they go to being the authority for themselves, then that will be the maturity that they need. And then they won't try to be an authority over other people. Which gives rise then to the quality that you probably heard, that the very best people that the U.S. has to offer to run for office wouldn't bother. It's only the worst people of the society, the ones who want to be an authority, the ones who want to kind of prove their manhood, that run for office, because that's kind of a rite of passage for them. So, and so we wind up always with the worst politicians.
Yeah. And it seems that if you get successful in an immature stage of development, you just stay there. You have no impetus to grow. You've gotten external, superficial success, so you don't try to find the real deal.
Exactly. So this is actually an overall way of looking at the problem of humanity. Is how does a young man or a young woman, but most specifically we're talking about the problem because the women have it easy compared to the guys. We've really got ourselves screwed up in this issue of what does it take to be a man? Because we all start off as boys or as children, and we kind of remain that way. And what the quality of the, for instance, the dumb animal is that, for one thing, the fruits of the labor of any draft animal does not accrue to the draft animal. That in fact, if that horse is out plowing that field, he does not get the benefit of the plowing of the field. He may get a bit of hay to eat, but most of the groceries that come off of that plowed field go to someone else, those who are an authority over that dumb draft animal. And so this is why Bhikkhu Buddhadasa and Achan, or actually the Buddha himself, talked about this as one of the woeful states, as being reborn as an animal, which means basically going around doing what we're told to do without rhyme or reason why, but that we really don't want to do it. Because if we were doing it because there's a reason, there's a value, there's a purpose in our work drudgery, then we can tolerate it better. And so we need reasons and rationales in order to push ourselves along, but we still do that out of ignorance. Because in reality, most of the reasons and rationales that we do things are because of old things when we were children. For instance, going to school. That it takes a long time for a student to really, and most students don't ever get really interested in a subject that they're learning in school. That we start off in school as you've got to learn this because this is the class you're in and the test, and you either do it or you don't do it. But the children are never given the option of, are you going to like it or not? So a few schools are now experimenting with, can you give the child freedom enough to where they can do what they like to do, and then suggest that they like to do some new stuff like algebra, but only if the kid is curious in it. So here we are as a whole society that have raised ourselves in the sense of being, treating our children like animals, not giving them reasons or rationales for doing anything, so that the child grows up doing what he's told to do, going along to getting along, fitting into the society, but deep down inside we resent it. We resent doing what we're told to do. And the one place where that resentment is going to show up, if you're very lucky, is in your meditation practice. Because this deep regarded resentment that we have is so much a part of our makeup that we don't recognize it. And so what happens in meditation is the student gets fairly good at it. He begins to have some mindfulness. He begins to clean some stuff out. He gets himself into a wonderful, nice set of homeostasis. And then, guess what? life is shit. And some shit's going to happen. The student's not watching where he's going. He steps into a cow pie. And now the resentment for the practice starts to show up. Look, I've been doing all of this meditation. Why can't I count on the meditation to having gotten me out of this mess that I've made? In other words, I practiced enough already. Why do I have to now practice again? I thought that I had practiced enough my meditation. Do you hear those thoughts that I'm revealing? So actually, even for the advanced meditator, we will make meditation as part of that which is done because it's supposed to be done. It's supposed to be good for us. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can. I just dealing with a little bit of a mess here.
Well, if you need to go do that, then
Yeah.
you can call me back later and we can continue on. Or
He's kind of calming down here.
it sounds like he's making a lot of noise now. How about he get you goo or something?
Hey. Hey. Hey, buddy.
Why don't you go take care of business? And that's a meditation on its own, and you can call me back.
Yeah, I'll give you a call back in just a second, Dhammarato.
Okay.
All right.